A week passed by in the blink of an eye. News spread as the royal family of the Lowered Empire announced the participation of the first prince in the Grand Sea Continent meet. The news brought shame and disappointment to the citizens of the Lowered Empire, as they were mocked by others for not having a genius cultivator, having no choice but to rely on a 9-year-old kid to represent them in the Grand Sea Continent meet. Is our emperor sane? Why is our emperor sending a 9-year-old kid to participate in that competition? It's not like they have a choice, the royal family was almost decimated after all. Last time, it was our emperor who managed to grab the first place in the Grand Sea Continent meet. So our emperor surely has a plan to make the prince get into the top 200. Right? Conversations like this were heard throughout the empire. Logan didn't care one bit to explain, as he knew that his son would ace the tournament with almost no effort. Instead, he looked forward to the amusing reactions of many people in the tournament a year from now. But the other empires didn't think the same. They all thought that Emperor Loret was at his wit's end, so he had no choice but to send his first son to be a laughingstock. The Grand Sea Continent meet was also a platform to show off the strength of their sky-grade empires, sects, and organizations. They would take it very seriously as this matter contains their honor and pride. Here, the young elites take this stage very seriously, as their fates could change if they were to rank in the top 200. Especially the young elites of the various sky-grade empires took this competition very seriously, as it holds a greater meaning and honor for their empires. And what they aimed for is not the top 200 but the top 10. Logan didn't need to worry about his empire's safety anymore, as the Grand Sea Continent meet is approaching. Nobody would dare to attack other empires at this time, as they all ceased any conflicts between them till the closing of the entrance for the outsiders. During this time, Logan arranged a sky-grade alchemist to teach Davis about alchemy openly. With Davis's soul cultivation, he was positive that Davis wouldn't need much time to learn about alchemy. As one's soul cultivation increases, the amount of information that they could take in and recall will increase as well. In Davis's case, even if he read 1,000,000 books, he could still remember it clearly. And finally, today was the day when the sky-grade alchemist would arrive at the royal castle. Davis was anxiously waiting for his new teacher, as he wasn't confident about his alchemy skills. He didn't have one, neither did he read about one. This was totally a new subject to him. Even in his previous life, his cooking skills were subpar at best. Even though he was encouraged by his parents a while ago, he was still feeling worried but not nervous. Davis headed to the throne hall with calm steps. When he got to the throne hall, he saw a middle-aged man greeting his father. Except for his father and that middle-aged man, no one was there currently in the throne hall. The middle-aged man was almost 6 feet tall, his black hair cascaded down like a waterfall. His face was kind with calm features which made him easily approachable, as he kept a smiling appearance. He wore a normal alchemist robe. Ha ha ha, drop the formalities, Alchemist Highwood. I am very honored to invite your esteemed self to teach my ignorant son about alchemy. I'm not even one of the members of the Alchemist Association. How could I dare to drop formalities when meeting an emperor of a sky-grade empire? Alchemist Highwood replied with an indifferent tone. Logan laughed as he said, You surely jest, Alchemist Highwood. Everyone knows that you are only second compared to the head of the Alchemist Association. I'm sure you had your own reasons for not joining the Alchemist Association, Logan added. That is not a big secret. Everyone knows that the current Alchemist Association is corrupt to its bones. If I entered that, I wouldn't even know where my corpse would be even buried after I die. Alchemist Highwood replied with a disgusted expression on his eyes. Alchemist Highwood disdained the ways of the Alchemist Association. Their ways were one of tyranny and high-handedness. Of course, and that's why I don't want my child to be taught by those hypocritical people. Logan replied in scorn. This, Emperor, is it true? About what you said? Suddenly Alchemist Highwood asked nervously. He didn't dare to believe what Logan said to him when he got invited. To make sure of it, he came in haste. It's Abs. Oh. Looks like my son is here, why don't you ask him yourself, Alchemist Highwood. Logan laughed figuratively. Alchemist Highwood turned his head to see a kid, who was almost 5 feet tall, approach him. He widened his eyes in shock. Me. Mid-level young soul stage. Alchemist Highwood stood there like a sculpted statue as he muttered silently. Davis made no effort to hide his cultivation, so Alchemist Highwood was easily able to see his cultivation. Alchemist Highwood stayed rooted for a short period of time, before his face widened in utter delight. The first Prince Davis Lowrit, was it? I can now see why Emperor Lowrit decided to make you participate in the Grand Sea Continent meet. Alchemist Highwood sighed. First, it was Empress Ruth, and now you. Young talents are leaving us in the dust like it's none of their business, and that makes me feel so old. Prince Davis Lowrit, please allow me to be your alchemy teacher. Alchemist Highwood said as he bowed his head. Davis, who was watching this, thought wryly, isn't it supposed to be the opposite? Teacher, there's no need to do that when I'm the one learning from you, this is bad. Davis awkwardly said. That would be the case if I were your master, but I'm your teacher. In fact, a talent such as you, I'm ashamed to take you in as my direct disciple, I'm not worthy. But teacher, it isn't Lee. Davis saw that Alchemist Highwood wasn't arrogant, and instead placed himself below him, which made him feel bad. You would soon soar the alchemy path like a breeze, so there is no need to call me master. Alchemist Highwood smiled and replied, as if he didn't mind the seniority.
Hey everyone, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy the audiobooks, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support us further, consider becoming a Patreon member. As a member, you'll gain the ability to request the next part of a novel audiobook I've uploaded, depending on your Patreon tier.
All right. Teacher, how long do you think I would need to learn your alchemy skills? Davis asked in doubt, as he really wanted to learn alchemy as quickly as possible. Alchemist Highwood thought for a moment before answering his question. 1 year. 1 year would all you need to surpass me if your talent is high in alchemy. If not, then 5 years at best. Haha, I'm glad that my son is recognized by your esteemed self, Alchemist Highwood. Logan laughed and joined in the conversation. If I handed over such a talent to the Alchemist Association, that would be such a sin. Alchemist Highwood said calmly, but he was glad to have Davis for himself. Certainly. Logan agreed with him. Prince Davis, let us get to the basics immediately. First, before practical, is theoretical. I want you to memorize all this as soon as possible before we try our hands on alchemy. Alchemist Highwood suddenly uttered as he took out a space ring from his space ring. Davis saw the space ring and thought, looks like he is eager to teach me too. He then took the space ring and quickly probed it with his soul sense. The contents of the space ring were books, all books. Ranging from books recording information of herbs, pills and treasures. There were also a lot of books on herb encyclopedia, pill creation process and techniques. The herb encyclopedia included information on the types of herbs, their characteristics, their variants and even their general location. It also included how to pluck the herbs without damaging it, and the other features one would have to know if they were aiming to be an alchemist. The pill creation process explained the process of creating pills with the herbs and treasures, while the pill creation techniques explained how to create a pill using a certain technique. There were more than 100,000 books that contained a lot of information. If a mortal were to complete reading these books, it was unknown how long would it take for them to complete it. Seeing the huge amount of books in the space ring, Davis's eye twitched. I thought so, I have to absorb a lot of basic information about herbs and pill making. Davis had originally planned on reaching the 4th stage in body tempering cultivation, and the 3rd stage in essence gathering cultivation in a year, but it seemed like he would not be able to achieve it now without much hard work. I thanked the teacher for his guidance. Davis bowed. Don't fret it. These are all just the information on herbs and pills which are of mortal and earth grade. Once you're finished with that, come to me. I'll test you. If you pass, then I'll hand over my entire inheritance to you. Alchemist Highwood replied with fervor. He was actually honored to have Davis as his student because, according to his beliefs, Davis would reach greater heights than him soon enough. "Thank you, Teacher Highwood," Davis said with gratitude. "Haha, that's just my alchemist title. Don't call me that, my name is Kevin Wood." Alchemist Highwood laughed. "All right, Teacher Kevin." Davis smiled but was a little irritated by the number of books that he would have to read. "Haha, don't disappoint your teacher, Davis. Make sure to learn properly." Logan then left him with a mocking smile on his face. "And where do you think you're going, my emperor?" Suddenly a female voice could be heard, but as it was familiar to Davis and Logan, they quickly recognized it. Davis had a gloating expression while Logan's face went pale. "Alchemist Highwood, I hope that you also teach the Emperor about alchemy. The royal family will then be indebted to you." Claire clasped her hands and bowed. Emperor Lorette doesn't know alchemy." Kevin would turn to face Logan in shock. Logan had an embarrassed expression on his face. "Don't worry, Empress, what is one more student to me? I'll easily make the Emperor learn about alchemy," Kevin would said as he looked at Logan with a weird expression. "I thank Alchemist Highwood for his understanding. I bid farewell then," Claire said as she left while glaring at Logan. Davis and Kevin would then looked at Logan with pity in their eyes. Cough. "Well then, it looks like I'm also one of your students, Teacher Kevin," Logan said as he accepted Kevin Wood as his teacher indirectly. "Ha ha ha, call me senior brother, Daddy." Davis couldn't hold his laughter in. "Scram!" Logan shouted in embarrassment. Kevin Wood went speechless. After that, Davis went to visit his mom. "Mom, how have you been?" Davis asked. In this week, he went to meet her a lot of times. "What is this? You come here almost every day now. Why are you suddenly worried about me?" Claire was surprised before noticing that he was acting strangely nowadays. "Ah, that," Davis mumbled. "Sigh. Did your father tell you?" Claire's expression looked forlorn. Davis avoided her eyes before saying, "Yes. Do you now hate me?" Claire asked wryly as she looked at her son moving his gaze away. "Impossible. I would never hate you." Davis screamed at her as felt sad in his heart. "Mom. So what if you're an outsider? Even I am like a part outsider. You are my mother for all I care. That doesn't matter at all. I promise that I will remove that lousy seal from your soul. Just you wait." Davis yelled as he told his heartfelt emotions. "My child. I'm so proud of you." Claire hugged Davis as she felt warm in her heart. She abandoned returning to her place just for Logan. She abandoned her cultivation career just for him. She abandoned everything and followed her love. She didn't regret her decision until Logan hid her only child away for 3 years. Every day without him was hell for her. Her cultivation stagnated, thoughts went into disarray, as she almost started hating Logan. And then, her son returned. That moment when she saw a scrawny kid in the royal castle, she almost immediately knew that he was her son. At that moment, all her regrets and dissatisfaction flew away from her like a kite with its string cut. She showered him with love and care, even pampered him a lot. And now she felt that he has grown up so much that she can now finally rely on him. With his words right now, she was feeling totally content with her life now. Her only regret was her cultivation career, and her close ones who were on the other side. But for her love and family, she now felt that everything she did before was worth it. No matter what. I would protect her at all costs. Davis vowed to himself. Sorry Davis, it's just that. Mom has just lost too many things, and not in one way would I want to lose you too. Claire smiled, her smile was like an autumn breeze. Davis said softly, It's okay, Mom. I'll always be your ally. Sigh. Anything related to that entrance in my home, I will not be able to say it, Claire uttered. She felt sad for not being able to help her son. She knew that he was going to participate in the Grand Sea Continent meet as Logan came to convince her beforehand. I know, Dad informed. Davis shook his head indicating that she shouldn't bother about it. Claire nodded her head as she felt gratified once again. Then should Mom help you get together with that woman you like? Evelyn, was it? Claire then teased her son. Davis was dumbfounded before yelling in embarrassment, Mom. How did you know? It was Elia, wasn't it? Davis said as he grit his teeth. Seeing that his mom didn't refute it, he got even more annoyed. He then realized that, since she was bought by his mother, then she must have been made to report about him to his mother once in a while. Oh. Looks like I have to bully here even more. Davis thought as he smiled sadistically in his mind. You like her too, don't you? Claire smilingly asked. Hearing that, Davis was startled before he remembered the scene, when he got so close to Elia's face while she was cultivating. His face involuntarily turned slightly red. Looks like I was right. Claire laughed gently as she pinched her son's cheeks. Mom, cut it out. Davis said that as he was truly embarrassed. You didn't think I would know. You are my son, how could I not know what you are thinking? The way you treat her, it is so obvious. Of course, I treat her like my friend. Davis said with a straight face as he tried to hide his embarrassment. Claire giggled, yeah, a friend. That said, I want you to concentrate on your alchemy for now because it will incredibly be helpful in your future. Claire's tone changed as she spoke seriously. Davis nodded as he knew that she was talking about his venture into the outside world in the near future. And also, don't cultivate to the third stage of essence gathering cultivation, don't ask me anything, just trust your mom. This, all right. Davis said as he couldn't understand why his mom forbade him now from cultivating to the third stage, but since it was his mother who told him, he chose to trust her. Suddenly a cute voice sounded out, UHG. Brother. Hug. Davis and Claire looked towards Diana, who was just sleeping before. Beside her was Edward, who was sleeping as well. Looks like she woke up. Claire said as she smiled. Ah, come here, you sweet girl. Davis said as he lifted and held her in his arms. Diana was just 2 years old and looked chubby and cute. Diana, who just woke up, went to sleep right after using her brother's shoulder as her pillow. After that, Claire and Davis engaged in some small talk as time passed by before he left sometime later. 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. Dead End disappeared from the Dark Earth organization. Everyone either thought that he was killed or escaped from the clutches of the Emperor. Davis mostly concentrated on building his alchemy knowledge during this time. He almost finished 70% of the books he was told to learn. He was this fast because his soul was 5 times as powerful. When Kevin would measured him, he didn't know how powerful his soul was as he could only tell his actual cultivation. Now, for a few days, he couldn't concentrate no matter how he tried. His mind was worried about the matter of Evelyn, so he made up his mind to visit her today. He tried to visit her before, but she stayed in her manor for a long time, rendering him incapable of visiting her. Now, she was currently in the Calden Pill store, so he knew that this was his chance. He knew all this because he had his sources as a prince of an empire. Many people would fall at his feet, and get in his good books if it meant that they could rise in rank and position. He arrived at the Calden Emporium with his entourage during the day. He went inside the Calden Pill store with Elia, and notified Evelyn about his arrival using the manager. Manager George Calden accompanied Davis as he openly came to the Calden Emporium. He had no choice but to escort him as his status was way above him. Evelyn entered the hall and met Davis. She smiled as she knew that he would probably come to visit her once she returned to this place. Haha, I see that the prince specifically came to visit our young mistress. George Calden laughed in an all-knowing manner. If you see that, then why are you still here, Manager George? Davis gave a side glance as he spoke. Haha, then I shall not disturb the young ones. I will take my leave then. George Calden didn't get offended as he unquestionably knew his position, and was a business-minded person. He clearly knew how to deal with certain people. He then left. Let's not talk here, follow me. Evelyn said as she turned around and started leading him to her room. Okay. Davis said as he followed her. His eyes stuck to her perky swaying but like glue. Evelyn walked seductively as she smiled, she could feel his gaze. Unknowingly, she realized that she felt good teasing him. When they arrived at her room, he and she went inside while Elia and Maisie stood outside. Humph. That swaying seductive movements of her. No matter how you see it, she is absolutely seducing him. Elia's expression was one of indifference, but she was boiling with anger and jealousy inside. She wished that she could save Davis from that vixen and chop her to pieces. She thought that as she looked down at her non-existent chest. It will grow as big as that, won't it? Her face changed to one of worry. Nothing could be said about last time. It was my fault, so I apologize for throwing a tantrum when you put in all that effort to meet me last time. Evelyn suddenly said as she turned her head back to look at him and bowed. Davis was astonished to see a woman apologize for her mistake. He heard that most women don't apologize for their mistakes in his previous life. I knew it, looks like that it was a deception painted by the people who lurk on the internet. He thought. But you were also in the wrong for hitting my weak spot. Evelyn said as she pouted. All right. Looks like the denizens of the internet were right. Haha, as you said. I was also in the wrong to carelessly speak about a topic which you don't clearly like, Miss Evelyn. Davis said as he clasped his hands, I apologize as well. After that, they exchanged some pleasantries as they sat at a table. They were now both happy that they were able to talk freely with one and another. I heard that your family announced that you would participate in the Grand Sea Continent meet. Evelyn was interested in that topic as she wanted to know why he would participate in it with his measly cultivation of the first stage in both cultivation systems. Could it be that he has achieved the second stage in both cultivation systems? She guessed. Hee, Miss Evelyn. It was my father who made me participate in it. As for whether I will be able to get into top 200, we will see it at that time. Davis grinned as he spoke vaguely. You've sure got guts, looks like I should hasten my cultivation as well. I haven't made any improvements since then, but I can feel that I am close to reaching the revolving core stage. She clenched her fists as she said that. Sigh, that said, it was my incompetence which made me a failure in cultivation. Evelyn couldn't help but think that her talent was average or even subpar at some times, which makes her sad. Davis narrowed eyes and said, please don't take that to heart, you will eventually be able. As he said that, his thoughts moved to what his mom said. He suddenly thought of an idea to curb her from cultivating in a moment of desperation, which might ultimately lead to cultivation deviation. This? I don't know if it's what I think it is, so please don't continue cultivating to reach the revolving core stage. Davis said as he tried to choose his words carefully. What? Evelyn felt like she didn't understand his words clearly. He asked me to not cultivate. She suddenly felt that he was mocking her again before immediately pushing that thought away. Then calmed down after she thought, the way he said it doesn't seem to be the case. Why? Evelyn asked as she couldn't understand. Davis was thinking the right words to make his message clear, but couldn't since he wasn't sure of what his mom tried to convey exactly at that time. Then he thought if he couldn't use the right words, then he should use the right actions to make her not cultivate for the time being. Anyway, she is going to be my wife, why hesitate? Davis thought shamelessly as he held her hands suddenly while he stood up. Don't be surprised, Miss Evelyn. He warned her almost immediately. Evelyn was surprised totally as she felt her hands being held by him, and went bright red as she heard him warning her. Her thoughts went into disarray as she hurriedly thought of multiple possibilities, but stopped as she felt a slight tingling sensation in her hands. This is the energy of peak level energy condensation stage. Evelyn was shocked as she stood up. Her eyes went wide at him as she looked at him like she was looking at a ghost. Yes, it's just as you think. This is the reason for my father's confidence in me. Davis slowly stated. Evelyn nodded, still looking at him with a dumbfounded expression. What does that have to do with me not cultivating to the revolving core stage? But she asked in doubt. For some reason, my mother forbid me from cultivating to the revolving core stage. She is my mother and I know that she wishes the best for me in everything. That's why I chose to believe her and stop cultivating to the revolving core stage. You mean that? She said it with an incredulous expression on her face. Davis nodded his head solemnly and said, it is possible that the revolving core stage in our continent is either incomplete, or there are still some more enhancements to it. In Evelyn's ears, what he said echoed as rumbling thunder to her. Why are you saying this to me? What if I leak this information to my family? Are you not afraid of it? She asked unbelievingly. Which prince would tell his family secrets like to even his lover? Evelyn thought incredulously. She couldn't help but think that she got involved in some serious business. Then I can only blame myself for treating you like a trusted person. Let me just tell you that I like you so much, not love you. If you betray my trust, then the best case would be that I would leave you for good, the worst case would be that I would kill you and my feelings for you in my heart as well, Davis said that with a hurt expression on his face. He knew that words once said couldn't be taken back. A determined expression appeared on his face. The worst for me would be that I would carry some heart demons, but even so I won't hesitate to do what I said. Her heart palpitated as a weird feeling came over her heart. She didn't feel offended as she knew what consequences there would be for betraying the trust of a person, especially a person of high status. Even she couldn't handle it if someone betrayed her for some reason. Evelyn asked as her eyes glazed. You trust me? I do. Davis looked at her eyes and replied solemnly. She bit her lips. Do you love me? I want to. But I believe we are not in that stage yet. He shook his head. I see. Her face went into contemplation as she pulled her hand back. It was unknown whether she was happy or sad as her facial expression was hard to read. I've decided to guard your trust, and I've come to a decision. What is it? Davis asked in anticipation. I've decided to participate in the Grand Sea Continent meet as well. If you can beat me, then I will become yours in both heart and soul. Evelyn said with a determined face. Davis's eyes went wide in astonishment. You mean that? I won't go back on my word. Davis clenched his hands in excitement as his face shone with enthusiasm. The matter of this marriage was pretty much a done deal now, or so he thought. Poor Evelyn didn't know that he had also body cultivated to the peak of the third stage. If she knew, then she would have vomited blood for challenging him. She thought that since he achieved peak-level energy condensation stage, then he wouldn't have had the time to cultivate in body tempering cultivation. Even if he had time, he couldn't have possibly reached the second stage in body tempering cultivation. Since it involves immense pain, children wouldn't have the fortitude to cultivate body tempering cultivation. This was something like common sense among the people of this continent. There were a few exceptions, but they were all children with beast or unique bloodlines. She planned to cultivate to the third stage of the body tempering cultivation in the remaining few months, as she had the confidence and resources to do that. She determined herself to withstand the pain which she might obviously experience, so she boldly proposed the deal to him with guts. Even if I lose, it's not like I'm losing anything, huh? She thought as she laughed inside her heart. All right, you can go out now. Evelyn shouted as she grinned. Davis was dumbfounded at her change. Aren't you the one who said we should talk equally, putting aside our statuses? Besides, we are competing now. Davis now understood as he clapped once. Good. I'll go to the Grand Sea Continent meet, and get myself an Evelyn. You. Evelyn's face went beet red. What? You're the one who accepted us as being equals and competitors. Laughing out loudly, Davis left with grand strides. After a few moments of silence, Evelyn's face was still red as she blushed so hard at his declaration. How did I pledge myself to this shameless prince? This was a question which she wanted to know the answer for herself. 6 months passed. Davis successfully learned alchemy during this period. In terms of knowledge, he is even currently on par with mid-level sky-grade alchemists. Even his teacher Kevin Wood acknowledged him for his ability to recall the things he learnt. Kevin Wood was completely gratified with his student. Unfortunately for his practical lessons, like creating a pill, Davis had no time or luxuries for that. So he wasn't able to teach, and Davis wouldn't be able to make a single pill even if he tried his hand without prior experience. So Davis decided that he will come back from the Grand Sea Continent meet to learn to make pills. During this time, he successfully entered the 4th stage of the body tempering cultivation, silver stage. Even without his soul forging cultivation, he felt that he could crush his competitors with his body tempering cultivation. He improved his fighting skills with Hendrickson during the last month, and the result ended up in him being able to use a spear proficiently. Although his skill wasn't that great, he was able to harness a power of 100,000 kilograms strength to crush his opponents, and that's only with his normal strength. Since he has the tyrant physique, he can harness 200,000 kilograms strength, which can easily suppress low-level silver stage cultivators and go toe-to-toe with a mid-level silver stage cultivator. It was now time for him to leave the royal capital and head towards the Grand Sea Continent meet, which was being held at the center of the continent. Davis and Logan bid farewell to their family and journeyed to the middle of the continent. Actually, Lord Empire was the closest to the center of the continent, so they were the ones to journey later than anyone else. The center of the continent was a sea, and it was named the Grand Sea, so the continent was named after it as well, as no one conquered the continent from ancient times. The Grand Sea was 100,000 kilometers long, filled with sea beasts that were at the 3rd stage. Even 4th stage and 5th stage beasts reside there but are wary of humans, and won't generally attack during this time because, after a beast enters the 4th stage, spirit beast stage, they gain sentience. Some magical beasts even have the ability to gain human form when they reach the spirit beast stage, but sadly, the current continent hadn't seen one yet. There were a lot of islands in the Grand Sea, and the competition will be held in any one of the islands. Logan, Davis and a lot of others who were going to participate in the Grand Sea Continent meet, departed in a sky-grade ship which was impervious to the attacks of 3rd stage sea magical beasts. The ship was 2 kilometers long and 10 stories tall. It was able to house 1 million people for the voyage. Although it wasn't luxurious, it was quite crowded. People shared their rooms, but the people of high statuses had their own rooms assigned to them. Though it was impervious, it was quite slow as well. Wow! So many people! Davis shouted at the sight of it. He was standing near the deck. He had his own room as well, so he stayed there with Elia. Elia was also participating in the Grand Sea Continent meet, as she was encouraged by Davis to do so. This ship housed 1 million youths from the whole of Lord Empire, as they were all going to participate in the Grand Sea Continent meet. Sometimes there were a few itinerant cultivators who can earn a spot in the top 200. So with hope in their minds, millions of youths travel from every empire to the Grand Sea Continent meet. Even if they can't get into the top 200, there wasn't a problem for them at all. As long as they enter the top 100,000, their lives would be pretty much settled, as various powers would invite them as honorary members or even elders. Haha, this is always a sight to see. Actually, when I went to participate in the Grand Sea Continent meet last time, there were more people than this. Logan frowned. Maybe it's because they think that we will lose face during this Grand Sea Continent meet, no? Davis asked. Might be. But alas, they will miss the legend of an era. Logan grinned as he said. They both then looked at each other as they laughed together. It will only be a legend here though. The world is huge after all. Davis commented after laughing. Logan contemplated his words before he said, That's a pessimistic view, but you're right. We shouldn't be narrow-minded and set our sights here, instead, we should set our sights on the outside world. Speaking of the outside world, I wonder how huge it is. Davis thought as he looked at the sky. Who knows? It could be a world smaller than our continent for all we know. Logan smirked as he joked. Haha, our continent itself is massive, to say much less of the outside world. Davis laughed. I wonder how big our continent is. Elia, who was standing behind, questioned to herself as she heard their conversation. Davis, who heard that, looked at her and smiled as he said, our continent is around 600,000 kilometers long, including the Grand Sea, which is almost 100,000 kilometers long. That huge? Elia was visibly dumbfounded. She never left the royal capital, and her knowledge of the continent was very less compared to the royal family. Davis nodded his head, yes. Most of the territories are occupied by the sky-grade empires such as ourselves. For example, our Lowered Empire has many powers under its jurisdiction, such as the Alfred Kingdom, Maxwell Kingdom, and many other powers. I don't understand. Elia had a confused expression on her face. Davis sighed as he said, look, a sky-grade empire has various powers under its authority. Ours is an empire, so we have many kingdoms under our territory which have subordinated themselves to us, like the Alfred Kingdom. Not only that, sects, organizations, families are all under our subordination as well. Only other sky-grade powers such as sky-grade sects and organization can escape from our grasp if they stay in our territory, like the Piercing Dragon sect and Ruthless Sword sect. Oh. I get it. Her expression was one of understanding as she nodded her head like a rabbit. Good, are you prepared to compete in the Grand Sea Continent meet? Davis laughed and questioned. I am. A determined expression appeared on her face as she said that. All right then, let's make your cultivation breakthrough to the iron stage. Davis held her shoulders as he said that. Yes. Elia nodded her head with renewed resolution. I must follow behind him no matter what. She thought as her courage grew, strengthening her determination. 2 months passed as they voyaged through the Grand Sea to arrive at an island known as Gathering of the Elites, also known as Goat Island. Finally, we arrived after a long journey. Elia said as she stretched her small body. The heaven and earth energy here is dense. Davis commented as he tried to absorb the energy greedily. Of course, this is a formation set up by the Guardian Alliance, its effects are as great as it could be. Logan, who was on the side, commented. But his face immediately turned solemn at the mention of the Guardian Alliance. All three of them were standing on the deck as they enjoyed the scenery of the island. The Guardian Alliance is the one who hosts this competition. They were the ones who mostly protect the continent from the invasion of the outsiders. One could join the Guardian Alliance if one can successfully break through to the 5th stage, at least in any one of the cultivation systems. Usually on the surface, the Guardian Alliance doesn't interfere with the affairs of the continental struggle wars. If they move, then they will move secretly in the shadows to maintain their upright and moral image on the surface. So no one dares to offend the Guardian Alliance, afraid that they might be targeted secretly. Actually, even if someone wants to destroy or give trouble to them, then they can't, because it is the strongest alliance in the continent, albeit, the alliance doesn't work together before the event. The Guardian Alliance only starts moving 5 years before the invasion. Until then, their members will be on inactive. Logan's father, the previous emperor, was also a top member of the Guardian Alliance, but sadly, he died, leaving the Lowered Empire without any standing in the Guardian Alliance. This placed Logan on a tough position as he couldn't do as he pleased during this visit. He had no backing here, after all. The other emperors were a part of the Guardian Alliance. They feared the Lowered Empire because of the unknown senior, but here, they could team up and strut around their might. Logan was worried about that as he still hadn't joined the Guardian Alliance, neither did he have the chance to do so. Because other than having a 5th stage cultivation, one is required to have achievements in killing the outsiders during the invasion. Only after this upcoming invasion would he have the rights to join the Guardian Alliance. Guardian Alliance A group of hypocrites. Davis sneered. It is only their right. The strong grow stronger while the weak grow weaker. Logan shook his head. Father has a point, Davis replied as he looked at the Goat Island. He scanned the surrounding of the island with his naked eyes, not opting to use soul sense since he might be discovered. There were a lot of ships carrying the symbol of each empire, docked in the middle of the ocean near the island. Each ship was more or less the same as their sky-grade ship except the model and structure, as they were all unique to each empire. Looks like they arrived long ago. Davis muttered as he narrowed his eyes. Of course, some would have even arrived half a year early. Logan scoffed at their eagerness. What? Why would they? Elia yelled as she clearly couldn't understand why some empires would arrive half a year earlier, wasting precious time. Because of the dense heaven and earth energy. Davis replied. Ah, I see. How stupid of me. Elia put her head down in shame. It's all right, you don't know much about the outside world. No need to be ashamed of yourself if you can't figure out something yourself that is so simple for now. Remember, Elia, one step at a time. Davis said as he lectured her like a tutor. Logan, who was on the side, looked at the two of them weirdly. Is he the prince? Or is she the princess? He thought amusingly. So what if they don't have enough cultivation level? As long as I'm here, if they want to directly participate, then they will be able to. Logan said overbearingly with an indifferent face. What gall? Are you disrespecting the Guardian Alliance? Emperor Raven raised his voice with a sneering tone. The other emperors didn't say anything as they knew that these three have a personal vendetta. Oh, who is that little girl near Prince Davis? I remember that your daughter should be only 5 or 6 years old. Emperor Trider asked with a questioning tone. In fact, with his intelligence network, he already knew who this girl was. Elia, who heard that, shuddered. She wore a purple robe, and her hair was tied up in a bun. But no matter who saw this, they quickly knew that her bearing was not one a royal family member. Humph. That is my son's maid, just so you know, she will participate in the preliminaries. Logan replied in dissatisfaction. Then she has no business here. Lean, throw her out. Emperor Trider sneered as he said indifferently. The other youths were also displeased about a maid sitting together with them. Which of them didn't have their own pride? Yes. A youth, who supposedly belonged to the Trider family, stood up and looked at Elia with teasing eyes. He looked lean and his eyes were sunken, as if he indulged in sexual pleasures all day long. Logan glared at him like a hawk eyeing its prey. Lean Trider went speedily, not caring a little about the glaring eyes of Emperor Loret as he had his backing near him. Ha ha, little girl, it's not safe for you here. Let me take you outside and there. He stopped his words suddenly as he saw a little boy standing in front him, blocking his way to that little girl. That little boy wore black-robed clothes which might have made him look dashing in appearance if he was some years older, but now, it just made him look cute. He laughed and said, Little Prince Davis, I don't want to hurt you, could you please move aside? Davis raised his face above as he looked at Lean, and uttered a single word. Scram. Laughing sounds echoed from all sides. The young elites who were seated had a good laugh after hearing the words of Davis. He said scram. Scram, ha ha. Oh my heavens. What a loss of face for Lean Trider. I wouldn't stay here anymore if I were him. Does that kid even knows who he's dealing with? Some mocked Davis while some mocked Lean. Lean's face turned green from hearing the mocking comments. Brat. I'll give you one last chance, move aside. Lean's face burned from being embarrassed as he shouted in fury. But he didn't dare to attack before giving a warning. Fool. I'll say it again, scram. As Davis said those words slowly, even more laughing sounds erupted from the sides. Brat. Don't blame me for being ruthless. Lean clenched his fists and punched at Davis's face. Davis calmly looked at the incoming fist, that he thought was so slow. He thought that he could have dodged at least 10 times during this period. Just when Lean's punch neared Davis's face, Davis moved his face slightly to the side as he dodged his punch with incredible timing. Looking at Davis, everybody was stunned. Davis wasn't afraid that his body tempering cultivation would be found out because he knows that as long as he doesn't reveal his body's aura, there is no way that they can figure it out. He knew that they could only try to guess or probe. You. Just when Lean finished receiving his fist back, he felt himself flying through the audience seats as he fell down on the arena. Davis's fist was so fast that Lean didn't see it coming. Lean struggled to stand up as he tried his best. He felt as if his innards were coming out. Just when he stood up, he spat a mouthful of blood as he glared hatefully at Davis. "I'll kill you." Just when he lost his mind, he suddenly received a soul transmission from Emperor Trider, which made him get back to his senses. "Looks like your son is the one who doesn't deserve to be in this place, Emperor Trider." Emperor Ashton suddenly piped in as his eyes glowed. After all, seeing his son-in-law being highly talented, he thought that he should help him no matter what. My son might be somewhat lacking compared to this 10-year-old genius, but that maid doesn't deserve her place here. Emperor Trider said in displeasure. He felt that he had lost some face because of his son's incompetence. Suddenly a stomping sound could be heard as all heads turned to look at the little boy. Davis was the one who stomped his legs to garner attention. He clasped his hands and said, "Emperors and young elites, I am Prince Davis and this is my maid, Elia. Targeting her is the same as targeting me. You should be beware of the consequences that might come around to your doorstep one day. That said, I and Elia are going to participate in the preliminaries to broaden our horizons even if you hadn't said anything, Emperor Trider. So this whole time, I am very sorry to waste your breath on us." Davis said as he grinned. He had a mocking expression on his face. "Insolent." Emperor Trider's face went red in fury as he stood up. When had he, an emperor of high stature, had been reprimanded and mocked by a 10-year-old child? This was courting death. Many youths froze in horror and some looked at the sight in admiration. They all thought, truly a newborn calf doesn't know the fear of the tiger. Emperor Lowrit and Emperor Ashton hurriedly moved in front of Davis. "What is the meaning of this, Emperor Ashton?" Emperor Trider asked in annoyance. There's no way I'm going to let you harm my son-in-law just because your opinion was not accepted by anyone. All right, there's no need to start a dispute just because of one maid." Emperor Ruth stood and said, "Prince Davis, could I ask you to go to the preliminaries then? We will be starting the preliminaries tomorrow. So go gather at the east side of the island for now." Davis nodded his head as he could clearly see Emperor Ruth giving him a way out of this mess, and naturally, he wouldn't decline this offer as he didn't want to deal with a person who he can't currently handle without using his death note. His impression of Emperor Ashton also grew, but not much as he knew that it was a result of showing off his talent in the public. "Then I will take my leave, everyone." Davis clasped his hands as he bowed perfunctorily. The pressure he was facing was offset by the two emperors who shielded him from Emperor Trider. "Thinking of running right after you picked a fight with me. Coward." Emperor Trider wasn't ready to take this lying down. "I wonder who was it that honestly got scared and turned tail after blatantly coming to destroy our empire?" Davis asked as he questioned mockingly. "You." Just when Emperor Trider was going to make a move, a majestic aura spread as it surrounded the arena. "Emperor Trider, are you not going to show me some face? I've already said to stop and you're still not stopping," Emperor Ruth said as he released his majestic aura. He was dressed in golden imperial robes which had flood dragon patterns. Emperor Trider said nothing as he sat down. He felt like torturing Davis for what he had done. One thing he couldn't understand was why Emperor Ruth would help the little kid. "Let's go," Davis said as he left the arena with Elia. A lone girl with fiery red robes sat in exactly 6 m away from Davis. Her face was covered by a veil, but her eyes were fiery hot as she blinked. Her long hair was blazing red as she tied it up in a ponytail, the left half of her face was covered by bangs as she blew it upwards with her mouth. From the moment she saw him, she was analyzing him with scrutinizing eyes. What guts! Doesn't he understand that he will get killed silently somewhere down the road? Some youths were looking at her weirdly. She felt as if their looks were asking, "Is that kid your future husband? What are you looking at?" Scram! Shirley shouted as she felt embarrassed by Davis. The other youths hurriedly turned their heads, as they were somewhat afraid of her. "All right, lads, you should learn from him. Look at his disposition, even daring go toe-to-toe with an emperor. A person of such caliber said that he is going to broaden his horizons. What are you all doing? Go participate in the preliminaries." Emperor Ashton sent a soul transmission to all who came with him to participate in the tournament. That's a drag. No way, we are not going. It will be a massacre if we go. Those plebeians won't even be able to stand before us. Humph. The replies he got almost burst his head. These kids. He thought as he sighed. Shifting his soul transmission to a lone girl who wore fiery red robes, he said, "Shirley, what do you think of him? What broaden his horizons? Won't he get killed before even he reaches his adulthood?" Shirley Ashton said as she fumed. Emperor Lowert was with him, but Princess Davis' confidence doesn't clearly come from him. Emperor Ashton said as his face changed. He thought of a certain possibility, but didn't dare to make sure of it. "Isn't he a little too overbearing for his age?" she asked in confusion. "I think he has the power to back it up, although I'm not sure of it." "Then we will see it when the competition ends," Shirley said as she looked forward to it. She was confident that she will get the first place during this Grand Sea Continent meet. Her temper is fiery when she speaks, but when she contemplates, her personality changes to a calm disposition. You could say that she just couldn't control her mouth, but could control her thoughts to a certain degree. After this, the emperors chatted as they spent their time leisurely. The young elites exchanged some pleasantries, and then went back to being silent as if it were none of their business. But there were some youths who actively went around greeting and making acquaintances with everyone. This arena was full of people with sky-grade powers on the north side. Even various sect masters, organization heads were present, but they chose not to interfere with the emperors. Instead, they either talked or argued with the people as same as them. A silhouette was running to the east of the island in a relaxed manner, albeit that silhouette was extremely fast. "Davis. Wait for me." A girlish silhouette, which was frantically running with all it got, shouted atop of its lungs. Hearing that, the silhouette, who was Davis, slowed down and maintained a pace which matched Elia. "Why do you run so fast? Don't leave me behind." "Ha, sorry. This place is so fun to run freely, I couldn't help but loosen my constraints." These two were currently going through a forest. It was greenish with its calm and peaceful scenery, which was filled with life. "What if something happens? Then I won't be able to report to the emperor. Don't go running without me," Elia said as she tried to berate him. Davis, who was running in front of her, turned his body towards her as he kept moving behind. "Yes, my queen," he said as he bowed with one hand on his chest. Elia, who heard that, was stunned as her face blushed. He pretended to not notice her blush and turned front. He felt good to bully her but didn't know that he was acting shamelessly, as a result, which only made Elia like him even more and more. After a moment passed, she calmed herself down and asked Davis as she was curious about that matter. "Why didn't you let me fight that person? Even though I was kinda scared, I was sure that with my cultivation level that I could have taken him down." "You could have taken him down, but the consequences would have been different, as that Emperor Triter would have straight away killed you without giving any reason, as your status isn't high. So I had no choice but to make a move, as he can't kill me that easily." Hearing that, her face went pale, but she quickly calmed down as she shouted at him. "I swear that I'll get reliable like you. So please just help me grow stronger, Davis." Davis smiled and nodded at her. This was the first time she asked anything of herself to him. In the east end of the Goat Island, there were a huge amount of people, amounting to more than 1 million. There were also a large number of queues, in which the young cultivators lined up to get their tokens. Seriously, I have never seen a queue this big before. A young man who looked quite naive, uttered in an annoyed tone. Me neither. A young girl who was behind the young man replied. Heh, you don't know, but it would have been more of a humongous queue if everyone came to get their tokens at the same time. Suddenly a random young cultivator piped in, trying to show off his knowledge to the young woman. Brother, you mean? Another young man, who looked scrawny, joined in on the conversation. Yes, there are already more than 5 million contestants who have already got their own tokens. That random young cultivator replied. Yeah, right. The other empires have already arrived here earlier after all. That scrawny young man nodded his head in understanding. Davis and Elia, who were passing over the people who lined up in the queues, heard a lot of conversations like this, which made it easier for them to understand what was going on. Elia, did you hear that? Elia replied as she digested the information she heard. Looks like there are 12 islands in which the preliminaries will take place. Not only that, but the island in which we will be assigned to will be decided by the tokens we draw, it seems. So there's a chance that we will be separated, huh? Realization dawned on her face as she went sad. Seems like it. Davis carelessly muttered and looked at sad her face. Seeing her sad expression, he comforted her. Haha, don't be disheartened, it's not like we're going to separate forever. He then added, besides, we don't know if we are even going to be separated absolutely, so don't lose heart. I hope that we are always together. Elia smiled and replied innocently without any ulterior meaning. Davis, who heard that, froze. Her smile was bright and pure, combined with her words, she looked like an angel to Davis. He then hurriedly looked away as if he hadn't minded what she had said, but deep in his heart, it pretty much had a high impact on him. They both then lined up to queue for getting a token for the two of them, as they conversed. The two of them received weird looks from the start, as they seemed like two kids who were going on an excursion. Davis didn't pay any heed to their weird expressions, but Elia was visibly discomforted by their unwanted attention. Don't pay any heed to others, Elia. As a child who came to attend the Grand Sea Continent meet, you should be proud of yourself. Elia nodded her head as she put up a proud front. Davis laughed at her proud expression, which made her instantly embarrassed. After getting their 2 tokens, it was already night. They were almost the last participants to get their tokens. Why isn't there a writing on the token? How am I supposed to know which island to go to? Davis, who saw the token, couldn't help but question. Maybe the letters would appear magically. Elia replied in a joking tone. Suddenly, a solemn voice sounded out to the whole island from nowhere. The voice even sounded out a few more kilometers. As I have already said before, the letters on the token will reveal itself on the day of the preliminaries. We have decided to host the preliminaries tomorrow, so those who did not manage to get a token by today will be automatically disqualified. Hearing that, many youths who were in the ships or somewhere around the island, hurriedly went to the east of the island to get their tokens. A powerful voice amplification formation. No, doesn't look like that. It probably is an additional feature of another formation. Davis thought as he couldn't figure out where the voice came from. Time passed by as morning finally came. No one bothered Davis and Elia, as they all thought that these kids came from some powerful family to broaden their horizons. Again that solemn voice echoed in fervor. The time period for collecting your tokens is over, anyone who failed to procure one will be disqualified automatically. Hearing that, the many youths who ran to get their tokens yesterday night like their lives depended on it, heaved a sigh of relief. Now the letters in the token will reveal themselves in any moment now. Suddenly, Davis could sense an energy wave coming from a formation somewhere. He managed to pinpoint it as the formation's energy came from the center of the island. Various transparent lights shot above from the middle of the island, which was invisible to almost 99% of the youths who came to participate in the preliminaries. Davis also saw those transparent lights as it came close to him at an extreme speed and collided with his token. This kind of situation happened to all the young cultivators who held a token in their hands. No matter if they were on a ship or somewhere far away from the island, those transparent lights successfully hit the tokens in their hands. Davis saw the transparent light transform into some words in the token. Fifth Island. But for some reason, the token in his hands, which was originally white in color, suddenly converted to a red color. Elia, which island did you get? Davis then asked Elia. Fifth Island. Davis heaved a sigh of relief and said, we are on the same island, thankfully. Really? Elia clenched her fists in excitement as she almost jumped on him to hug, but chose not to as it would be considered rude. Yes, he. Davis laughed in a relieved tone. Actually, he was the one who was most afraid of separating from Elia, as there were many dangers here in the preliminaries. After all, it wasn't too difficult for a person to kill another person in this place. Somewhere on the island, a black-robed silhouette held a token in its hand which glowed red as it thought. Fifth Island. Why is it red now? That silhouette then looked into the sky and thought. I wonder if he is in the arena. Humph. I'll surely pass through this preliminaries and meet him there. It then returned to its teammates who were some few hundred meters away. That solemn voice then echoed again. Now for those of you got the first to third island tokens, head to the north end of the Goat Island and board the ship which carries you to your designated island. Next, for those of you got the fourth to sixth island tokens, head to the east end of the Goat Island and board the ship which carries you to your designated island. Then, for those of you got the seventh to ninth island tokens, head to the west end of the Goat Island and board the ship which carries you to your designated island. Finally, for those of you got the 10th to 12th island tokens, head to the south end of the Goat Island and board the ship which carries you to your designated island. The rules will be explained once you reach your designated islands. The whole island was silent for a moment before some people scrambled to get to their destination. Davis, who was already on the east end of the island, laughed wryly while looking at the incoming ships. The ships docked on the shore as the participants began to board the ship in a hurried manner. Davis and Elia also casually boarded a ship which was designated to go to the fifth island. Some time later, that silhouette also boarded the same ship. The ships hosted about 1 million youths each, which then set sail to their designated islands after a period of time. It was already noon by that time. The ships then reached their destination when it was almost night. It was starting to get dark when Davis and Elia arrived at the fifth island. The solemn voice echoed again to all the 12 islands. I shall explain the rules now. The tokens you have carries each 1 point. Some of you may have a red, blue, or green token. These tokens contain 100, 50, and 10 points respectively. These tokens are distributed randomly, and the one who possesses these tokens may have a head start from all of you. But it may also be a disadvantage if a weak cultivator possesses it. The preliminaries will go on for 10 days, earn as many points as you can and distinguish yourself from the other cultivators. The top 100,000 on the 11th day will be qualified to participate in the second round of the Grand Sea Continent meet. The preliminaries will officially start in the midnight, so scatter throughout the island for the time being. Young cultivators of all the empires, the stage has been set for you to achieve your glory. The strong will advance while the weak will lag behind. Your fate depends on your prowess. So if you don't want to lag behind the others, give it your all even if you have to die for it. As the voice echoed, all the youths were filled with renewed vigor. Davis, who heard that, couldn't give a sh*t about it, while Elia couldn't help but get nervous. So, this is the fifth island. Elia muttered as she looked at the eerie forest from the shore. Stay with me, don't get lost though. Davis casually said as he yawned. He almost got bored by this tiring trip. They then headed into the forest, so did the other young cultivators. Many followed after them as people thought that 2 kids were easy targets. But Davis and Elia managed to easily leave them behind with their speed. But some managed to follow them, but only by managing to use their full speed. Those people who followed them were astonished by the fact that these two kids were faster than them. That's right, Elia. If someone wants to take something away from you, don't let them get away with that. Just plunder them back. If they want your life, then take away their life. Don't leave anyone behind, as that might come to be fatal one day. Elia kept nodding her head as she learned how to survive from him. There are about 8 people who are following us. When midnight starts, you will face them. Elia, who heard that, was astonished. She asked, "You are not coming?" "I will be near you, but I won't help you. Since it's your first fight, depend on yourself. Win with your own power." "All right, I will do as you say." She narrowed her eyes as she said. Faint fighting intent emitted from her eyes as she clenched her little fists. Davis had already measured their pursuer's strength, so he was confident that she should be able to handle it. Davis nodded his head in satisfaction. If she threw a tantrum right now, then he will have no choice but to give in, as he couldn't force her to do something that she doesn't want. Time passed as the chase continued through the forest. Davis even identified many mortal-grade herbs as he thought wryly, "As I thought, looks like the high-grade herbs had already been cleared a long time ago." Just when it was about to become midnight, that solemn voice echoed again. "Now, young participants, whether you rob or kill, work hard to accumulate your points, as your fate depends on it. I hereby declare the start of the preliminaries. It's time," Davis said as he disappeared from Elia's view. How did he do that? Elia widened her eyebrows at his disappearance. She hurriedly stopped at a place and climbed above a tree, and stood upon its branch. The 8 youths arrived at that place and looked like they were searching for something. **T, where did that little boy go? Ha ha, little missus. It will be better if you hand over your token. We don't want to hurt you after all. Look, even your friend who was with you got scared **Tless and escaped. Yes, it would be better if you hand over your token. Then we'll be on our way." These 8 people teamed up to advance in the rankings and coincidentally, also noticed Davis having a red token, which was why they decided to follow them. Elia, who heard that, managed to calm down, as their intent wasn't to kill her but only rob. The 8 youths were clad in different armors and had different weapons, which made them look like a group of ragtag. Elia narrowed her eyes and shouted in a brave voice as she steadied herself, "If you want it, then come and take it from me. Ha ha, I admire your courage, but it wouldn't be wise to let go of our offer. Leave it. Everyone who participates here have their own backbone. You can't just expect them to hand it over. Then, I'll take care of her." A youth with a spear on his back approached Elia. "I can do this," Elia thought as she readied herself. "Bullying a little kid isn't my hobby, but we are fighting with our lives on the line here. You can only blame yourself for stepping on this land." That youth who had a spear charged at her with open fists. It seemed like he had cultivation but no fist skills, as he was clearly clumsy with his fists. A spear user. He went easy on me, Elia thought as she jumped out of the branch. She aimed her fists at him and collided with each other. Bam! Arg! That youth was sent flying as he felt his bones crack in his arms. Hand over your token, now that you have been defeated. Elia threatened in a not-so-threatening tone. Ha, little miss, did you forget that there were 7 of us left? A voice echoed at the back of her head which startled her greatly. She ducked her head down as suddenly a black sword cut the top of her hair a little while she hurriedly moved away from her position. Elia, who was almost killed, was greatly angered as she looked at the scrawny youth who sneak attacked her. Hawk, what are you doing? A youth with a sword shouted. She's just a little girl, why are you aiming to kill her for? Even the guy who had his fists broken shouted at him. Humph. You guys should just give up and go back to the ship. If you don't have enough resolve, just go back to your hometown. That scrawny youth who was called Hawk sneered in derision. A short handling of the little girl led to a confusion in the newly formed random team. They exchanged back arguments as they decided what to do with her. After all, every team here was either formed way before or after this preliminary started. He's right. If you don't have enough resolve, then you guys should just hand over your tokens and leave. That's right. The situation went out of hand as an internal fight broke out among them while they argued whether to kill her or not. Out of the 8 individuals who pursued them, it was only that youth who had a sword, and the youth who had a spear outright denied to kill her. Elia, who watched that, felt an emotion wash over her as she laughed at herself in derision as she thought. How lamentable. They're fighting over whether to kill me or not, as if I am a savage beast. So this is what Davis, my prince, meant by that he is weak, even when he is so strong. This is why he told me to make myself stronger, so that there will be none who could control my fate by then. Stab. You. The scrawny youth who argued with the youth with the sword suddenly had his heart pierced as electricity ran through him like a snake that was bent on devouring the innards of its prey. Elia looked up at him in indifference as she thought of him as an ant. That scrawny youth's eyes went red as he collapsed while his heart corroded as it let out a charred smell. Kill her. The 2 youths who supported her froze, while the other 5 youths who were clad in different armors surrounded as they charged at her in all directions. Elia looked at her surrounding calmly, as if she weren't the one who was targeted anymore. She looked like a bystander who was calmly watching an ongoing battle. Her eyes looked indifferent to her surroundings as she cast a technique. Lightning storm. She lightly muttered to herself as she looked at those 2 youths who shielded in a different light. Suddenly, thick lines of lightning tinged with a light black color erupted from her body as it flew to the youths who charged at her in a zigzag motion. Hurry, dodge. A youth shouted in horror as he saw that lightning approach him like a snake. But alas, the lightning discharged by Elia was faster than them, resulting in the black lightning hitting them with a crackling sound. Lightning covered them as they were burnt like a pig, while a charred smell wafted in the air. The 2 youths who supported Elia froze in fear as if they saw a ghost, their face pale as snow. Hand over the tokens and leave. Those 2 youths who heard that threw over their tokens hurriedly and ran away with their lives pathetically, as if they were granted an amnesty for a great crime they had committed before. Davis. I won. Look. Elia shouted as she turned jubilant while she collected the tokens from their tokens, as if nothing of importance happened a moment ago. Just when she collected the last of the 8 tokens, she collapsed on the grass as if she was exhausted. But just when she was going to fall on the grass, a hand extended around her waist and supported her from falling. A few minutes ago. Davis looked at the confrontation in utter concentration, as he couldn't let Elia die in front of him so easily, no matter what. 8 youths, let's see how she would handle this. Davis thought. He was on the branch where Elia had supposedly stood on before, watching the battle below with eyes wide open. He used his dark concealing shroud art to make himself invisible to the people below. In fact, even all the people in this preliminary couldn't see through his cloaking. Even if he stood beside them and acted like a clown, they wouldn't be able to notice. Davis saw Elia send a youth flying with her fists. Oh, looks like that youth is a bit okay as he is not aiming for Elia's life. Guess I could spare him. Just when Davis thought like that, suddenly he noticed a scrawny youth get behind Elia as he lifted a dagger and slashed at her. Davis almost immediately launched himself at him if it weren't for the stupid mistake the scrawny youth made when he arrived behind Elia. That idiot. I thank the heavens that he isn't an assassin. Davis's heart felt at ease when he looked at that scrawny youth speak before slashed at her. He was at least sure that Elia would have been able to dodge that with her skills as he had sparred with her before. Then he saw Elia dodge that slash as she hurriedly retreated when suddenly an internal fight broke out in the enemy team. What the hell? Davis couldn't hold his laughter, but his impression of those 2 youths who shielded Elia turned good. Suddenly he could see Elia laugh weirdly as she moved to the scrawny youth in a second. Davis's eyes went wide as he saw her stab that scrawny youth's heart with her finger, while she had a calm and indifferent expression on her face. He gulped as he thought that was scary. He never saw this expression before. Had she killed a person before? He thought as he shook his head. He then saw those 5 youth who were ready to kill her, surround her in a bid to end her. Davis narrowed his eyes as he thought of making his move. He thought that Elia will panic as she had no battle experience before, but the sight before him made him stay his hand. He saw Elia cast the second layer technique of the extinction lightning judgment, with a calm face, as she fried her opponents to crisp without any reaction. Davis's heart almost leapt out of his chest as he couldn't believe this scene. He thought that she turned into a person that he doesn't know of. Since when did she start killing people like cutting cabbages? He had this thought and hurriedly moved to spare those 2 youths who had supported her. He then saw Elia sparing those 2 youths, which then made him heave a sigh of relief. He thought as he ruefully smiled. "Ha, guess I jumped to conclusions. It was my fault, I brainwashed her too much about survival that she didn't even blink to kill her opponent." Davis then saw her call out to him, as she collected the tokens one by one. Just when he was going to reveal himself, he saw her suddenly collapsing while he quickly moved to support her. Fuck. As I thought. Which human could possibly not be exhausted and pained mentally when they kill another living being for the first time? He thought as he felt guilt in his heart, but quickly assured himself that it was a necessary process for her to stay alive even if anything happens to him later on. After all, he couldn't be there for her every single time when something bad happens. A day passed while the participants either killed or robbed to get their hands on the tokens. At a place where there was a multitude of flora and a vibrant grassland filled with countless trees, 2 silhouettes could be seen as one was sleeping on the other one, who was sitting. These 2 silhouettes were Davis and Elia. What is this? Why is she still not waking up? Davis thought as he looked at her worriedly. It had been a day and still, there was no sign of Elia waking up. Just when he thought of scouting his surroundings, he saw her eyelids gently tremble. Elia opened her eyes as she looked at Davis, who was looking at her intently. She then realized that she was given a lap pillow by Davis while she blushed visibly. "Good morning, Elia." "Although it is night, he," said Davis as he greeted her in a warm tone. Elia quickly stood up while she involuntarily remembered about the event that took place earlier, as she started to breathe heavily. "Calm down, Elia. What you did was correct, there's no need to be hard on yourself. It was for survival, and there was no helping it." Davis couldn't help but comfort her, seeing this sight. He originally thought that he shouldn't pry on this topic as it might remind her of something unpleasant, but since she remembered, then he had no choice but to comfort her. Elia, who heard that, was visibly comforted, but she shook her head as if that wasn't the case. Davis couldn't get what she was trying to say. She then shook her head again, and looked at him sadly as she bit her lips. "It's nothing, I was just too scared." Davis replied, "Anyone will be scared after their first experience of killing. No need to worry over that. In this world, we will probably get used to it." He thought to himself ruefully but didn't say it to her, as he thought that she should understand this herself. Elia nodded as she stayed silent. A few moments passed awkwardly before Davis suddenly remembered something he had to say to Elia. "Elia, just when the first day ended, that solemn voice made its entry again. It said that we will be able to see our ranks and our tokens, as well as the number of points we hold." While saying that, he took out his token as he inserted his energy into it. 5th Island. Name. Position, 9,046,970. Points, 50. Oh, it also said that we could insert our names or alias into it. Davis then added. "Elia, check your token now." Elia nodded while she took out her token as she inserted her energy into it. 5th Island. Name. Position, 11,446,330. Points, 1. It says that I have only 1 point. Elia muttered in confusion. Of course, you haven't still absorbed their tokens, have you? Ah, yes. Elia uttered as she gave the tokens she collected to Davis. Hey! Increase your points. Didn't you defeat them? Davis refused it as she was the one who defeated them. Okay. She muttered as she absorbed those 8 tokens. The 8 tokens then disintegrated as if they didn't exist in the first place. Out of the 8 tokens, 2 tokens were green, 1 token was blue, while the other tokens were white. 5th Island. Name. Position, 8,636,767. Points, 76. Now my points have increased to 76, said Elia as she looked at her token and had a sudden doubt. But the name slot is empty. Oh, that voice also said that we can use our energy to input our names or alias, Davis said as he looked at her in a meaningful way. What? Hee, I'm going to use an alias. Flicking his sleeves, Davis gave off an impeccable air which seemed to imply that he had a grand alias in store for himself. Elia looked at him weirdly as she knew whenever he posed like this, there wouldn't be one good thing that would happen. She then ignored him and replied as she used her energy to input her name into the token, oh, I'll just use my name. 5th Island. Name, Elia. Position, 8,636,767. Points, 76. She looked at the token in satisfaction and felt a little good, as though she managed to carve and leave her name in a monument. So, what alias did you pick? Even though Elia was not even the least bit looking forward to it, she was still a little curious. Not telling. Davis laughed. Days passed as Davis and Elia actively hunted for tokens. They killed whoever wanted to kill them, and robbed whoever only wanted to get their tokens. They did as they pleased and spared no one even under any circumstance. As long as they felt some killing intent from their enemies, they won't hold back either. Davis made Elia do all the fighting and as a result, her battle experience increased. Furthermore, she never got to be in a disadvantage during a battle, as she dual cultivated both body tempering and essence gathering systems. Elia faced more than 100 battles and she collected more than 3,000 points. Meanwhile, Davis ran off to hunt whenever she had taken a break from her exhaustion from battling. He had also managed to gather 2,000 points, as he made his way into the top 10,000. People who had lost their tokens had no way to participate unless they rob a token from a participant and start from the beginning. So it doesn't matter how many points one collect, it was important to protect their own token as well. Once a person lost it, all the points that the person had collected will disappear, but it won't add to the one who absorbed the token. The one who absorbed will just get the point of the token that they have absorbed. It was the 5th day of the preliminaries. A black-robed silhouette, along with 5 young people, ran across the forest. They looked pretty happy as they checked their tokens. Hey, look at this, my ranking is in the top 1000s, the youth who said that had a lush green hair tied up behind his neck. He looked suave and had a dashing presence around him. Not bad. The voice sounded out with a tone that can melt one's state of mind. Haha, young mistress, it still doesn't compare to your ranking of getting into the top 100. Stop that, all the tokens that I absorbed were from the hard work of us all. Honestly, all of this should have gone to you, Kent. The 6 of them were none other than the Calden family youths who were sent to participate in the Grand Sea Continent meet. There were 2 women and 4 young men in this group. It doesn't matter if my ranking is in the top 10 or top 100 in this preliminaries. This ranking will be of help to you when you marry into the Lord family so that others won't look down on you, Evelyn. Kent Calden smiled and said. Thank you all. Evelyn felt touched and replied in a heartfelt tone. She was wearing black robes to cover her identity from someone. Kent was a close cousin of Evelyn's. He was next in line to inherit the family head position since Evelyn was born as a girl. The other candidates don't quite measure up to him in cultivation, so they were no threat to him at all. The only threat to him was Evelyn. If someone had married her and got into the family, then he would lose his family head position. But to his luck, Evelyn got engaged to the prince, and she will marry him into the Lowert family, which clears the line for him to become the next head of the Cultivation family. This made him feel content, so he had no qualms in helping Evelyn, who was his cousin, achieve a greater glory in the Grand Sea Continent meet. The Cultivation family team was quite powerful, that each of them could hold their own against a motley team of youths who were only out for the top 100,000 positions. Evelyn, who had a pretty low cultivation, rode on their coattails, as she didn't deem it necessary to use her own powers in this preliminaries. They chatted as they randomly went in a direction to encounter a team to battle, and casually collect some tokens while they were at it. Suddenly Evelyn froze as her team encountered two kids who were lone without any reinforcement. Her team also froze because they have seen these two kids before. Well, isn't this a coincidence? My dear Evelyn. An astonished voice drifted, breaking the silent atmosphere in this place. Davis was surprised to see her in this island. There were other 11 islands, which made his chances of meeting her were very low as well. Evelyn was dumbfounded to hear that he had found out her identity with just a glance. She felt that all that concealing her identity and strength had gone to waste. She removed her hood and replied calmly, "My Evelyn. I don't remember becoming yours." "Oh, you will, hee. That matter? Are you up for it now?" Davis asked with a playful tone. "You sure you want to take me on?" she said as she released a grayish aura from her body. She has reached the iron stage. Kent and the others who saw Evelyn was visibly astonished at her cultivation. Evelyn said nothing as she revealed her cultivation proudly, expecting Davis to be astonished at this sight. Clap, clap. Davis clapped as he was genuinely happy for Evelyn, but he still said in a playful tone, while he walked closer to her, "Congratulations on breaking through the iron stage. I'll happily take you on right now." Don't tell me his body cultivation reached the 3rd stage. Evelyn frowned as she saw his playful expression. Still, she walked forward as she readied herself for a battle. She couldn't possibly back out even if she now knew that he was in the iron stage. "Make your move, Miss Evelyn," Davis said as he stood calmly, not bothering to pose for a battle at all. Evelyn, who saw that, sneered as she thought, what was I worried for? He is still a kid. Then, here I come. Evelyn shouted as she used a technique to muddle a person's thoughts with her aura. That shout traveled as it reached Davis's ears that made him look a little disoriented. Evelyn hurriedly moved forward with elegant steps to hit him as soon as possible. She closed in on him and used her delicate palms to attack. Davis, who looked befuddled, suddenly dodged her palms as he caught her dainty wrists, which were soft, with his small hands. He then playfully smiled at her as he freed her wrists and moved back calmly. Whistle. Kent, who saw that, whistled in approval while Evelyn's face went red. She now knew that she was cheated as he wasn't affected at all by her sonic technique. Again. This time, she didn't use those support attacks and charged at him with her full speed and power. They then both exchanged fists as the battle intensely erupted between them. But it was intense only for the onlookers and Evelyn, as she was fighting with her full strength, while Davis was visibly relaxed. A few moments passed by. Evelyn was visibly shaken as she felt herself tiring down with her fast-paced movements. But what made her truly shaken and tired was that Davis still didn't release his body cultivation aura, and was still fighting solely with his own bodily strength. The Cultivation family youths were visibly horrified at the sight of it. He is only 10 years old and has such strength. Does he have a beast bloodline? He will surely be able to rank in the top 10 of the Grand Sea Continent meet. When such thoughts were running around the Cultivation family youths, Davis suddenly backed out and smiled wryly at her. "Miss Evelyn, can you give up?" "Why? You won't dare to attack a woman." Evelyn shouted at him as she knew that he was defending the whole time, and hadn't made any moves on her at all. She now knew that she was no match for him, but still, she felt frustrated at the thought of giving up, so she continued attacking to save herself some face. She felt that she could give up if she was beaten up badly, but giving up before that made her think that it will be a stain on her life and ungraceful. Haha, Miss Evelyn, it's not like I don't dare to hurt women, it's just that I don't dare to harm my future wife. You. Shameless. Evelyn blushed as she felt her face burn, but felt an unknown emotion in her heart. Humph. You tricked me, but I will keep my word. Evelyn said as she gritted her teeth in frustration. Yes. Davis howled mentally in his mind, as if he had achieved a big dream. I know that my future wife isn't a sore loser. Hee hee, I can always trust my instincts. Davis replied as he waved his sleeves. Suddenly, she calmed down and smiled as if she was the one who achieved victory. Whatever, keep bragging. Though I lost, it won't end here. What do you mean? Davis narrowed his eyes as he continued, Are you going to go back on your words? Miss Evelyn. No, I did say that I will give my heart and soul to you, she grinned playfully as she added, but I never said that I will give my body to you. Davis widened his eyes in astonishment as he thought wryly, this woman. She played with her words. He suddenly laughed, holding his stomach. Everyone thought he went insane, including Evelyn and Elia. Evelyn suddenly felt that she bullied this kid too much, and was just going to comfort him when suddenly, the Davis in her vision blurred and appeared right in front of her in an instant. Davis held her chin as his face went closer to her ear, while she momentarily froze as he whispered. As long as your heart is with me, it's enough. Evelyn dumbfoundedly watched as he mystically disappeared along with Elia, while the whole Calden family was horrified at the fact that they lost sight of two kids who were not half the age of them. The whole Calden family team looked at Evelyn with envy and jealousy, especially the other woman who was in the team. She almost went insane as she thought why she didn't get to be born as the young mistress. Why didn't she get to marry this monstrous prince? Such a delicious deal. Who wouldn't want that? These kinds of thoughts ran through the Calden family youths. Kent Calden suddenly had a weird thought that if he were to be born as a woman, then he would do all in his power to fight with Evelyn. Evelyn, looks like you did a great deed in your previous life to be able to be blessed with this kind of opportunity. I hope you have a great life. And don't forget about us too. Kent Calden said with a congratulating tone. The whole affair happened in front of everyone, so they were able to form their own theories about the matter both were talking about. Everyone congratulated her while Evelyn was dazed. She nodded her head absent-mindedly to their compliments and praise. Her head was still buzzing with those sweet words he whispered. Abruptly, she came out of her reverie and said in a calm tone, I'm withdrawing. What? The whole team were dumbfounded as they all thought doubtfully, shouldn't she work hard to gain the favor of the prince by giving it her all in the Grand Sea Continent meet? They couldn't understand why she was acting arrogantly in front of the prince. This? Young mistress, isn't this a little too hasty to withdraw from the competition? Yeah, this is only the preliminaries, with your power, you could score more in the second round of the Grand Sea Continent meet. Evelyn calmly said, I have finished my business in this place, so I'm withdrawing. She then whipped out her red token and stretched out her hand to Kent, take this, it's of no use to me now. Kent looked at that token weirdly and backed off, then he slowly said, Evelyn, I have no idea what business you had here, but shouldn't you at least make an effort to be worthy of the prince? I thought about this before as well, but you are too arrogant. Evelyn, who heard that, was visibly shocked at his thoughts. I am arrogant. Her eyes went wide as she asked them. But her tone was one of questioning herself. I meant no offense, but what makes you think that you are worthy of Prince Davis? Comparing your measly talent with his talent, combined with the age difference, what exactly makes you think that you are worthy of him? If it weren't for the risky decision of our family during the rebellion, which as a result, made the royal family indebted to us, do you think that you would be able to enjoy its benefits? Evelyn was visibly shaken while each word hit her deeply, as she was dragged down to reality. It's not like I wanted this marriage, he was the one who had taken a liking towards me. She shouted back in frustration. Kent narrowed his eyes as he continued, the prince had miraculously somehow taken a liking to you, probably because he had just reached puberty. If I guessed it correctly, then he was probably enamored by your charms and figure, which could drive a man crazy. If it weren't for that, how could he, a person of high stature, possibly take a liking towards you who at best possesses only an average talent? Don't you think that one day, when he grows up, that he will just get tired of your figure and realizes that he should no longer try to please you since you are so arrogant and not worthy of his time? No. Stop. I didn't want this. It was our family who forced me to marry him. Evelyn shouted as she couldn't bear to face her reality anymore. Humph, what had you done for the Cultivation family other than wasting resources? Do you think that you can be so free that you can do anything you want just because you were born as the daughter of the family head? As the young mistress of our family, you have a responsibility to satisfy the family whether you like it or not. A few moments of silence passed by as the atmosphere turned rather tense. Kent harumphed and said, "So you don't want him, huh? Fine. Look at Zara. She looks like she couldn't wait to steal the prince from you, so why don't you rather gift the young mistress status to her if you don't want this marriage? Simple, right?" Evelyn looked at Kent in disbelief, and Zara Cultivation, who was the only other woman in this group, suddenly looked startled as she had no idea why she was brought into this conversation. "Zara, don't you want to marry the prince? Weren't you keen on her marriage? Evelyn says that she would gladly give her status to you if you want to do so." Zara was shocked again as her secret motives, which she hadn't acted on, were revealed in front of everyone. She hurriedly bit the bullet and said, "Yes. I would gladly take the young mistress's position and marry the prince if young mistress doesn't want it." There you have it. Zara says that she would like to marry the prince. Your problem is solved, right? I know you just want a peaceful life in the family. Zara, with your position as the future young mistress, isn't this a piece of cake for you? Kent grinned as he fined his voice to a serious tone. Yes, if our Evelyn wants to live peacefully, then it is within my powers to do it. In fact, I can agree with her future demands as well. Zara spoke seriously while she hid her excitement at the prospect of climbing the hierarchical ladder. As a talented member of a family, she had envied the young mistress position of Evelyn. She felt that Evelyn didn't deserve to be the young mistress just because she was the daughter of the family head. In the Cultivation family, it was difficult for one to keep their positions if they haven't achieved anything. If it weren't for Evan Cultivation, Evelyn's father, who had secretly protected her from every problem, then Evelyn would probably be dead or sold to some powerful characters even before she reached 15. As a father, Evan Cultivation had wished the best for his daughter in everything, and to him, marrying her off to the prince seemed like a deal from heaven which couldn't be any better. Silence rained down on the place as everyone looked at Evelyn for her answer. Aye, Evelyn stuttered as she trembled. Visible anger filled her face violently when suddenly, she felt reality drowning upon her. Abruptly, she lost her bearings and went crazy as reality hit her hard. "Shut up. Who do you think you are? I won't hand over my position. Neither will I hand over my fated one. He is mine." Utter silence reigned once again as everyone looked at her lose her mind while Kent, who was the only one who was calm, grinned in satisfaction as he nodded as he thought, provoking always works on someone who thinks that they're high and mighty. Evelyn looked at others bewilderedly. It was not that she couldn't believe what they had said, it was because she was dumbfounded at her own words. Various thoughts raced through her head as she realized her own deep wishes. Time passed as it was almost the end of the preliminaries. Davis was in a good mood these 4 days. He felt ecstatic as he thought that he managed to leave an impression on her. But most importantly, he felt that their relationship would move forward a little as well. After that, he thought that seizing the first position was a drag, so he and Elia stopped hunting for tokens altogether. It didn't take them long to realize that their positions stayed stable, as all the weak opponents had been eliminated from the preliminaries so far. So they explored the island and enjoyed the scenery as if they were on a vacation. It was a refresher as they didn't have to see blood and kill people. And of course, during this time, they encountered a little stronger opponents than the usual teams, but they still didn't opt to fight them but instead chose to steer away. Brave youths of the Grand Sea continent meet, I hereby announce the end of the preliminaries. The top 100,000 positions will move on to the next round. The others will have to return to their designated ships if they are alive. A solemn voice echoed throughout the island as it marked the 10-day period of the preliminaries come to an end. It continued, those who have passed the preliminaries will move onto a ship that holds the flag of the Guardian Alliance and hand over your tokens. The Guardian Alliance ship flag was yellow in color with a shield of different colors in the center. It sailed from the first island to the 12th island picking up the contestants, who were in the top 100,000. It was pretty quick as everyone knew their own rankings, and the ship released a signal, indicating its position to the participants, making it easier for them to head over to the ship. They then handed over their tokens to the staff on the ship as they went to their designated rooms. The ship was big as the first ship they came in, so there was plenty of space to accommodate the remaining top 100,000 participants. They were all satisfied as this was a luxurious ship with plenty of delicacies and services. The youths who were in the ship started to imagine their glorious future as the ship sailed to a new island. I wonder what the second round entails. Hey, look at that, she's hot, go talk to her. No way, man, she's way out of my league. Various conversations ran through the ship as everyone started to either give up and enjoy the ride or get nervous and stayed in their room, preparing to compete for the top 1,000 positions. Only a few who had faith in their abilities were carefree, as they knew that they would advance into the top 1,000 positions. Suddenly, a voice echoed in the ship solemnly. Victors of the preliminaries, I will now explain the second round of the Grand Sea Continent meet. The second round is to hunt magical beasts. What? Magical beasts? I knew it. Whatever, it is better than killing people. Everyone had different reactions when they heard that they have to hunt magical beasts. But most people felt happy as they didn't have to needlessly kill any more due to survival. Somewhere in the ship, in a certain room. Isn't that good? Davis asked. Yes. But a beast. I've never fought them before. Elia replied meekly, totally different from the way she used to behave during a battle. Don't worry, I haven't fought them before as well. We'll stick together as we try to kill them one by one. That solemn voice which waited for the youngsters to digest its words, echoed again as if mocking Davis's words. I will explain what exactly the second round involves. Each of you will hunt for the magical beasts individually, so if any one of you is found hunting a magical beast with another participant, you will be immediately disqualified without any delay. Robbing is also forbidden as this round only depends on your ability to hunt magical beasts. A clamor broke out in the ship as everyone who tried to get lucky through their teamwork felt dejected. But no one can change the rules, so they continued listening. After you arrive on the island, each of you will be given a spatial bag, in which you will store the cores of the magical beasts you personally hunt. The cores of the magical beasts also contain fixed points. A low-level mortal beast stage core will give you 5 points. A mid-level mortal beast stage core will give you 10 points. A high-level mortal beast stage core will give you 20 points. A peak-level mortal beast stage core will give you 50 points. A low-level earth beast stage core will give you 100 points. A mid-level earth beast stage core will give you 200 points. A high-level Earth Beast Stage Core will give you 300 points. A peak-level Earth Beast Stage Core will give you 500 points. A low-level Sky Beast Stage Core will give you 1,500 points. A mid-level Sky Beast Stage Core will give you 3,000 points. A high-level Sky Beast Stage Core will give you 5,000 points. A peak-level Sky Beast Stage Core will give you 10,000 points. A low *** that island doesn't have a 4th stage beast, so you can relax. Everybody had black lines on their face, as they heard the voice continued speaking even more after a peak-level Sky Beast stage magical beast. But after they heard the voice comforting them, they couldn't help but laugh and relax. That voice made their nervousness go away in an instant, Davis thought as he sensed the atmosphere in the ship visibly relax. A Sky Beast stage magical beast can possibly kill them even when they work together as a team. So what is the possible result when they confront one individually? It is almost certain death. This made them nervous and sent them panicking before the voice made them relax again. Magical beasts are inherently stronger than humans. Unless one trains in at least 2 of the cultivation systems, one cannot hope to fight equally with them unless their battle prowess is higher than the norm. Young geniuses, as the top 100,000 cultivators, you are the future of our continent. If you sense that your life is in danger, please do back out and go to the east end of the island. There are already more than 5 million deaths in the preliminaries. Each of them was promising in their own right, but ultimately it still led them to die in the process of gaining glory. Everyone was shocked to see the death toll but quickly returned to normal as this was expected. This also happened in every other previous Grand Sea Continent meet, so nobody cared. But they cast looks of gratitude towards the voice as it told them to retreat when danger closes on them. However, Davis sneered, "Huh? What, please do back out? You guys only want to recruit them and get them under your control, strengthening your respective empires in the process." The voice then continued, "However, if you are caught cheating, instead of you youngsters getting yourselves killed by the magical beasts, you will be executed by us." The top 100,000 participants who had thoughts of cheating immediately wiped away such thoughts. Also, the spatial bag contains your token, and it works in tandem with a formation. So the number of points you obtain will be updated in the scoreboard which is on the deck of the ship. In fact, you youngsters should also try to work hard, because another scoreboard is also in the main arena, so your ranking will be displayed in front of the great emperors. The youths clenched their fists in agitation, dreaming to arrive at the top position, so they can distinguish themselves from the others. They were all thinking that once they reach the top 10, they can enjoy all forms of luxury for the rest of their life. The ship then continued to sail to the island where the second round will take place. Time passed by as the 12th day arrived. In the distance, a huge volcano could be seen on an island. Davis and Elia, who were on the deck, looked at it in awe. But what they were admiring was not the volcano, but the island which was divided into 2 by a river. The whole island was elevated while one end had a volcano while the other end looked like a glacial mountain. An ice volcano. Davis muttered as he looked at it in awe. He never saw an ice volcano before, this was a new sight to him. Young geniuses, we have arrived at the designated island. Now is the time to prove yourselves in front of everyone and make it to the finals. Move on to the island. The second round will last for a total of 5 days. Collect as many cores as you can. I hereby declare the start of the second round of the Grand Sea Continent meet. Just when everyone was going to jump out of the ship, that voice kindly echoed again. Don't forget to collect your spatial bag from the exit of the ship. The contestants had black lines on their faces as they forgot about it or either thought that it will be handed over once they reach the island. Suddenly a youth ran in front of the exit and inserted his hand into a big chest. He took his hand out, collecting a spatial bag in the process. He then made his way out as he went to the island. Looking at that, all the youths understood one by one as they made their way to take their spatial bags that were in the chests. They all understood that it was a formation but couldn't figure out which type of formation it was. An identification type formation. Davis thought while he looked at it. He had more knowledge than these people concerning formations. He had read about it in the library, after all, he had almost spent 2 years there, only reading books. Why do they take a random spatial bag from the chest? Didn't that voice say that our tokens are also in a spatial bag? Elia asked in confusion. Although she was in the royal castle, she wasn't allowed entry to the library after all. Davis explained as he shifted his look to her, what the formation does is identify your energy imprint. Everyone has their own unique aura, energy and soul. So what the formation does is match your energy with the token and bring it out. So what I take out is mine. Yes, you can say that. Even though Davis wasn't totally sure, but he assumed that this was the case. Elia nodded as she understood, but she also lamented at her ignorance. She secretly vowed that once she had reached enough strength, She will achieve something, and get permission from the Emperor himself to gain entry into the library. Just when he was watching the exit of the ship, he saw Evelyn and her team approaching the exit. Why is she still participating? Didn't she only come here to battle with me? Davis thought as he looked at her in confusion. Maybe I was secondary and she came to achieve a position for herself in this competition. Davis laughed at himself but felt a little sad for some reason. Well, I'll keep an eye on her too. In case if anything happens. Suddenly, his face was pushed aside. He turned to look back at Elia, who was the culprit who pushed his face. Elia? Is something wrong? He asked in incredulity as this had never happened before. Rather than being angry at her, he felt happy that she pushed his face aside because she never had the courage to touch him herself, not even once. Elia just pouted without saying anything, as she moved towards the chest at the exit of the ship. What did I do? Why would I do that? It must be that. Elia panicked internally, and had no idea why she did that. Sadly, she could only guess. Wait. I'm also coming. Davis had no idea what had happened, but he happily rushed forward as he caught up and walked aside her, jubilantly. They collected their spatial bags and then reached the island. The island was almost 500 kilometers long, and it was unquestionably a unique zone in the Grand Sea. Fog eternally perpetuated in this place, as the conflict between the two conflicting temperatures endlessly clashed from the time people found this island. The left end of the island had seabeds which were extended by the erupting volcano every decade. There were also hidden reefs and molten caves which were used as a hideout, or as a home for the magical beasts. The right end of the island was covered in ice, and the land was frozen widely with small hills that looked like it was encased in ice magma. Davis walked hand in hand with Elia to the left side of the island. It was perpetually hot in this place, and their field of vision was quite limited, but Davis had a unique soul which made him sense his surroundings with clarity, so he couldn't help but appreciate the beauty of this island. Furthermore, he also sensed a bizarre bug flying around him. A monitoring bug. He thought as he guessed. It was all over the island, but the bugs were quite small and almost invisible to the naked eyes, but he could sense them as he had a powerful soul which also made him sensitive to his surroundings. That said, he confidently walked together with her because he knew that he was not violating the rules of the second round. The rules only said that the participants were not to hunt a magical beast together. But the rules never stated that the participants cannot travel together. This was a loophole which was realized by some of the smarter participants, which led them to also travel again with their previous team. I never thought that I would get to see the Furzan Island, which had been stated in a certain book of the Royal Library. Davis nodded in appreciation. He could see unique plants and herbs which were growing on this island. Most of them were fire-attributed herbs which were very useful in alchemy. He collected some herbs and tore those apart as if they were roadside weeds. These kind of herbs were quite ordinary to him, and he wanted to get a realistic feeling on the internal structure of the herbs. Elia followed beside him and curiously looked at his serious expression that was on his face. She personally felt that it was cute. Then Elia had a confused expression on her face, just when she had realized something. Davis, aren't we supposed to be hunting for magical beasts? What are you doing there? I'm just looking into the internal structure of the herbs, so I can learn about its working and essence when used in alchemy. Davis continued his research and didn't look at her. But don't you think that something is wrong? We are already in the outer zone, but we haven't encountered any magical beasts. This is kinda weird. Elia said in worry as she believed that they should have encountered a magical beast by now. Davis suddenly froze as he looked at Elia in horror while pointing behind her. Look! A great serpent. Elia felt alarmed awe. She then immediately screamed as ran behind Davis while cowering her head. Few moments passed by as nothing happened. Elia then opened her eyes and looked at Davis, only to see him having a can't hold my laughter expression on his face. Her face went red as she embarrassedly screamed, stop playing around. Don't scare me like that. Calm down, Elia. Honestly, you have a good sense and perception. Just relax and maintain your vigilance at the same time. I know that it is difficult, but this is something that you should master if you were to become a pro magical beast hunter. A magical beast hunter is just the name that the people have given to people, who mainly hunt beasts for their survival. It isn't an official occupation or anything. Elia then discerned that she was stressed out the whole time, even though she acted calmly on the outside. This was a new experience for her, and as a maid, she had seen the scary carcasses of magical beasts, which had made her not want to see them alive, walking around. Davis had his senses and perception heightened thanks to his soul cultivation, so he could maintain his vigilance without being stressed out. What you said has a point. But the concept you forgot was that we came to this island openly. We, the 100,000 people who are currently hostiles to the natives of this island. Do you think that those magical beasts will just get slaughtered by us? Even though they can't think or speak like us, they do have sharp instincts. So the magical beasts you were talking about must have run to the inner zone of this side. Suddenly, he grinned as he walked to a tree that looked charred. Except some brave magical beasts, which are looking to have their own delicious victim. A burst of light passed through the tree vertically, as the tree slowly split into two trunks that fell on each side. A brown snake slid off the tree, as blood washed over the ground gradually. It was 3 m in length, but its thickness was quite small. Its scales were brown as if they were burned, though it was not the case as it was a natural scale color for it. A charred boa, a high-level earth beast stage magical beast, Davis mentioned its name calmly as he collected the core of the snake by cleaving up its head with the spear he used to kill it. He then smiled at her as he said, I wasn't kidding around when I said that there was a great serpent. Elia, who was flabbergasted by his method of teaching, nodded her head in appreciation and apology, sorry. Davis smiled. No need for that, I'm just trying to teach you the best I can. Elia stared at him blankly and wondered, is this the difference between a royal and a commoner? I feel as though I can never reach that place. No matter how she saw it, he was always ahead of her, even when they are of the same age. Though she thought that this was because of their difference in status, she didn't attribute to it and felt that wasn't the case. Suddenly, she discerned something and had a mocking smile on her face, how ugly am I? Without even realizing it, I was taking advantage of his kindness to improve myself. It was too arrogant of me to even think of always staying by his side, much less berate him. When Elia had realized that she had started treating Davis like a friend, she started feeling happy and almost at the same time, she felt fear as well. She felt happy that she was able to live a good life but felt fear because she was afraid of being abandoned. Adding to the thought that she had about Davis, this was almost like heaven for her. But one wrong move and she felt that she could end up in hell. To her, even though she also treated Davis like a friend, it just didn't feel natural. With the binding of a slave servant on her fate, she always had a subconscious limiter in her memory that kept her reminding about her status and position, which made it truly difficult to make friends with Davis. You are so kind. Elia muttered as tears involuntarily dripped down her face. Davis's face changed to an awkward expression as he thought that his method of teaching went too far. Elia then started wiping away her tears with her wrists while her face went red again from the embarrassment. She felt that she had made herself a laughing stock. Ha, hey, st, ha. Suddenly, Elia was shocked as she felt ticklish on her waist, which made her suddenly laugh like an idiot. 10 fingers were simultaneously stimulating her waist, giving her a ticklish and pleasurable feeling which made her want to die as she laughed like an idiot. Ha, sto. Dav, ha, inug, hnngg. Elia lost her footing as she fell back when Davis stopped and held her by the waist by twisting his arms around her back for support. Elia's breath was heavy as she gasped for air. She had a smile on her face with a heavy blush on her cheeks. That's right, you only need to have a smile on your face. Please don't make such a sad face in front of me. It was Davis who was embarrassed this time, as he turned his face sideways as he continued, actually, don't be sad even when not in front of me. I will always protect you no matter what kind of a person you are. Tears erupted again from her eyes like a flood which she had no way to stop, but this time, she was smiling as she was crying. She was shedding tears of contentedness. Davis smiled wryly. He only wanted to comfort her and make her stop crying. During the time he spent with her in the preliminaries, he felt that she had changed a little bit as her character and her actions were a little off. He only felt that a little bit and couldn't put his hand on it, which in turn led him to believe that she was facing some kind of internal conflict which he didn't know. All he felt like was like sh*t, not knowing what was going on in her mind. Without knowing it, he could only offer some comfortable words with his non-existent social capabilities. Davis sighed, "It was all my fault, it was too soon for you to experience all these things, mm. A delicate finger was placed on his lip which made him unable to open his mouth. "As you said before, this is the only way for me to increase my standing and status." She paused for a moment as she thought before continuing, "And if I could be with you, I wouldn't stop halfway. Besides, what do you mean that it was too soon for me to experience these things? Aren't you the same age as me? Prince Davis." Her tone was more of a mocking one rather than a berating one. Davis had a wry smile on his face, and didn't answer this question of hers. There was no way he would tell about his origin, or their relationship wouldn't be the same anymore. "And when exactly are you going to release me?" There was a faint shy tone to her voice, which made her sound like a cute fairy. Laughing slightly, he made her regain her balance as he removed his arms from her waist. An awkward moment of silence emanated in the surroundings. Suddenly, Elia spoke, "Let's go hunt, and this time I won't be afraid or fall back." Her face was calm, but her eyes were clear as if she had resolved her inner conflict. Davis looked at her and smiled, "Good." But suddenly thought of something and continued, "You will have to hunt by yourself, don't forget that." Elia looked taken back but quickly formed a smile on her face as she remembered the rule. "That's right, I can't keep depending on him." "Guide me then," Elia uttered as she started walking in a direction. "Sure, no problem," Davis spoke as they walked together. The direction they were heading to was the inner zone of the volcanic mountain. 4 days had passed since the start of the second round. In the Goat Island main arena, people were bustling with activity as conversations of the second round of the competition were being discussed on. People remained here as they talked about the various happenings, as they never seemed to run out of topic. The main reason that they were able to be free of boredom was that because of the profound formation which projected the situation and the events of the Furzan Island through the bugs which were monitoring the whole island. "Oh, look at that blue-robed youngster take down a crimson ape with pure strength. He must have purely trained in the body cultivation system, and reached at least low-level iron stage. I know this person. Isn't he the young master of the Nolan family from the Lowered Empire?" "Young master of the Nolan family? I think he was called Kevin Nolan." They then checked the scoreboard, which had his name in the 13th position, with a score of 14,500 points. Not only the Calden family but all famous and noble families from all the empires had also participated in the Grand Sea Continent meet. After all, it is an opportunity for them to increase their strength and fame. Various conversations of the famous youths like him could be heard throughout the arena. Even the emperors and the royal family geniuses watched them with some interest in their eyes. But no matter what, all their eyes were concentrated on a certain someone. Emperor Trider had a smiling expression on his face the whole time. He then suddenly commented with a mocking tone, "It's been 4 days since the start of the second round, but your son seems to only have killed a peak-level Earth stage beast which gained him 500 points. Even his maid had killed a lot of beasts. He mainly seems to be following and instructing her. At this rate, wouldn't he be a failure to the position of a royal heir?"